13 men sit in a borrowed, second-story room in Jerusalem, listening to the heavy footsteps of Roman patrols echoing on the limestone streets outside, painted on thousands of church signs, and deployed as a theological hammer in countless debates. I am the way, and the truth, and the life. He is anchoring them to a reality that Rome cannot touch. If he is the Hodos, they have a path through the darkness. If he is the Aletheia, they can see the reality hiding behind the illusions of the empire. If he is the Zoo, death itself has just been demoted to a temporary sleep. It is a stunning, beautiful, and breathtaking sequence of promises. It is the ultimate comfort for a room full of terrified friends. But it is exactly how he finishes this sentence that transforms this beautiful promise into the most offensive claim of the first century. You live in a world where exclusivity is a weapon. When you hear the word exclusive, your mind immediately builds a picture of human power structures. You picture a heavy brass deadbolt sliding into place. You imagine the thick, red velvet rope of a VIP lounge. You feel the cold sting of a slammed door, or the quiet shame of seeing a guest list with your name nowhere on it. We have all felt the visceral pain of being left out. So when you read the second half of John 14-6, no one comes to the Father except through me, your modern, democratic ears instinctively flinch. You project every human rejection you have ever experienced onto the voice of Jesus. You hear the clank of a cosmic padlock. You assume he is drawing an arbitrary circle in the sand to keep the wrong people out. No one comes to the Father except through me. Most people assume this is a statement of pure exclusion, of the club. We want spirituality to be a mountain with many different trails leading to the exact same summit. We want to believe that as long as you climb with sincerity, the specific dirt under your boots does not matter. But that reaction fundamentally misunderstands what he just claimed to be. Think about the 3 Greek words we just unpacked. He did not claim to be a gatekeeper checking theological passports. He claimed to be the pavement of the road, Hodos, the unhidden reality of the universe, Aletheia, and the indestructible energy of life itself, Zoe. When you realize what he is actually claiming, the exclusivity completely changes shape. If a doctor looks at a patient whose lungs are failing and says, "Oxygen is the only way for your blood to survive," you do not accuse the doctor of being arrogant. You do not protest that the oxygen is being narrow-minded or exclusionary. You recognize that the doctor is simply stating the structural reality of human biology. The same is true here. Jesus is not establishing a religious border control policy. He is stating the structural reality of the cosmos. If God the Father is the ultimate source of all life, and if Jesus is the physical, breathing embodiment of that exact same life, they read it as a border control policy for eternity. They imagine Jesus standing like a cosmic bouncer at the velvet ropes of heaven. Then, you cannot access the source while bypassing the embodiment. He is not saying he will stubbornly refuse to let you in if you try another route. He is saying there is no other route to take. But to truly grasp why this is not an insult, and to understand how it actually sets Thomas free, you have to look at the physical mechanics of water in the ancient world. Picture a village in the Judean hills. The summer heat bakes the clay. The village cisterns run dry. The stone cracks. The olive leaves wither and turn brown. The wind carries sand. The dust coats the back of the throat. The body slowly weakens. You need water to survive. A river flows in the valley below. It cuts through the white limestone. It carries cold, rushing, heavy water down from the northern mountains. You walk down the rocky slope. You kneel in the damp mud. You plunge your hands into the current. You drink. The cold shock hits your tongue. The moisture coats your throat. The life returns to your veins. Now, imagine standing on the cracked earth of the dry hill. Imagine demanding a different way to be hydrated. You refuse to walk into the valley. You reject the mud on the bank. You want the water, but you bypass the stream, crossing his arms, checking the guest list, and turning away anyone who doesn't hold the right religious passport. And the exclusivity of the claim, You want the hydration, but you refuse the source. The river is not angry with you. The river does not lock a gate against you. The river does not hold a clipboard. The river does not cross your name off a guest list. The river simply is what it is. It flows where it flows. If you want the water, you must touch the river. You cannot access the wetness while bypassing the stream. This is the physics of the upper room. Jesus is the river of the Father's life cutting through the dry earth of human history. When he says no one comes to the Father except through him, he is describing the absolute mechanics of reality. He is the physical location where the invisible Creator has chosen to pool his presence. He is the place where the aletheia has surfaced. He is the channel where the Zoe flows. His exclusivity is not a border wall. It is the riverbank. If God has poured all of his truth, all of his uncreated life, and all of his accessible presence into the human body of a Galilean carpenter, then avoiding the carpenter means avoiding the presence. You cannot bypass the conduit and expect to receive the current. You cannot reject the river and expect to quench your thirst. He is not demanding a theological password. He is offering a drink to dying men, is undeniably there. But if you look closer at the actual Greek words echoing in that candlelit room, at the emotional terror gripping, and, as the oil lamps flicker in the dark, the sheer weight of this reality finally begins to settle into one terrified disciple's mind. When the human mind experiences absolute terror, it instinctively looks for a system. We want a checklist. We want a 5-step emergency protocol we can hold in our shaking hands. We want an exit sign, glowing red at the end of a dark, suffocating hallway. That is exactly what Thomas was begging for in that candlelit room. He wanted the itinerary. He wanted a set of theological coordinates so he could guarantee his own survival when the swords came out. He wanted a map he could fold up and put in his pocket. For 2,000 years, modern readers have done the exact same thing to Jesus' answer. We have tried to turn his words back into a system. We have turned the way into a moral checklist. Behave correctly. Keep your hands clean. Do not step out of line. We have turned the truth into an intellectual exam sign. This doctrinal statement. Affirm these specific theological points. Pass the theological purity test. We have turned the life into an evacuation plan, a ticket out of this broken planet to a cloudy destination after our biological bodies finally give out, the men hearing them. At what this rabbi is actually trying to accomplish, in their hearts, you start to see something the bouncer reading. We have tried to build a religion out of the very words Jesus used to dismantle religion. But a system cannot save you from the grave. An intellectual exam cannot hold your hand when the lights go out. Jesus knows that Thomas is about to watch the religious and political structures of his world completely collapse. If Jesus gives him a philosophy, it will shatter under the weight of the Roman cross. If Jesus gives him a religion, the trauma of the weekend will tear it to shreds by Friday morning. So Jesus gives him the only thing that cannot be killed by a crucifixion. He gives him himself. The exclusivity of John 14:6 is not the arrogance of a dictator. It is the desperation of a savior. He is looking at the people he loves and diagnosing the absolute fragility of everything they trust. He is saying, do not trust the systems. Do not trust the temple. Do not trust the Roman roads. When the darkness falls, I am the only floor that will not collapse beneath your feet. This changes how we read the entire interaction. Jesus is not a cosmic bouncer locking the door to the kingdom. Completely misses. This statement is not a threat designed to keep the wrong people out. It is a lifeline thrown to terrified people. He is throwing his own body across the doorway to keep the darkness out. He is securing the perimeter with his own blood. The way is not a method. It is a man. The truth is not a concept. It is a heartbeat. The life is not a destination. It is a breathing, physical reality that shatters the grave from the inside out. And when you finally see all three of these words together, the entire story of the text collapses into a single, blinding point of focus. Thomas asked for a map to survive the coming dark, and a carpenter became the physical pavement beneath his feet. Rome built an empire on the illusion of absolute power, and a bleeding prisoner laid bare the ultimate reality on a stone floor. Pilate demanded a philosophical definition of truth, and the unhidden fabric of the cosmos stared directly into his eyes. The religious elite trusted a biological existence that a spear could end, and the Creator offered an indestructible energy that could not be killed. A thirsty world demanded 1,000 different paths to hydration, and the Father carved one rushing river through the dry dirt. Men sought a cosmic gatekeeper to validate their religious passports, and they found a savior throwing his own body across the doorway, trapped on the inside. To feel the weight of what Jesus is actually claiming, you have to strip away 2,000 years of Western religious baggage. 11 disciples watched their entire system collapse in a rented room, and they walked out anchored to an infrastructure that survived the grave. 3 words, 1 sentence, 1 person. But maybe the part that stays with me most is the dust on their sandals. We spend so much time debating the exclusivity of this verse, as if it were a sterile academic puzzle. We treat it like a theological bouncer at a velvet rope. But Jesus spoke it to men who were listening to the heavy boots of Roman patrols on the limestone streets outside. They were smelling stale wine and roasted lamb, shivering in the suffocating realization that they were about to be left completely alone. He didn't give them a doctrine. He gave them his breath. If you are in a season where your systems are failing, where the religious maps you were handed no longer match the agonizing terrain of your actual life, Jesus is not asking you to figure out the coordinates. If you are terrified that you do not know the way forward, he is not demanding that you pass an intellectual exam before he lets you in. He is simply asking you to step into the river. If this reached something in you, subscribe. Leave a comment. Even 1 word helps. Share this with someone who is exhausted by religious checklists and just needs to find the road. You have to step back into the anxiety of that upper room. You have to understand how a first-century Jewish mind heard 3 very specific words. Pray for us as we keep digging into these texts. And may the God who has never once handed a terrified world a map and walked away meet you exactly where you stand in the dark and become the very ground beneath your feet. Because Jesus did not hand Thomas a map, the place to start is not with the gates of heaven. It is with the dust on their sandals. The air in the room is thick. It smells of roasted lamb, bitter herbs, and stale wine. The Passover meal is finished. We are a species obsessed with navigation. We want coordinates plotted on a glowing glass screen, turn-by-turn directions vibrating on our wrists, and a clear blue line showing us exactly where the destination lies. When modern readers encounter the Gospel of John, we instinctively project our own navigational anxiety onto the text. We hear Thomas ask, "How can we know the way?" And we assume he is asking for a theological GPS. We think he wants a list of coordinates, a set of doctrines to affirm, specific rituals to perform, moral checkboxes to mark off, so that he can successfully arrive at a distant, cloudy destination called heaven. And because we frame the question as a search for religious directions, we frame Jesus' answer as a rigid, exclusionary policy. We picture a cosmic toll booth. We imagine a theological bouncer standing in front of a heavy velvet rope, demanding the correct password, eager to turn away anyone who hasn't prayed the exact right prayer or joined the exact right denomination. In our modern context of democratic pluralism, this sounds arrogant. It sounds like the ultimate religious power play. But that reading requires us to ignore the room. One of their own has already left, slipping out into the darkness to make a deal with the temple guard. It requires us to ignore the heavy breathing of terrified men who are about to watch their world end. Thomas is not asking a philosophical question about comparative religion. He is not asking how to get to heaven when he dies. He is looking at the man he gave up his livelihood to follow, the man who is about to be arrested, beaten, and nailed to a piece of rough-hewn timber, and he is realizing he is about to be left completely alone. He is experiencing the visceral, suffocating terror of abandonment. Jesus is not answering a question about who gets into the afterlife. He is diagnosing the despair in the room. And he is offering the only medicine that will survive the weekend. He is telling these men that when the religious systems collapse, when the Roman Empire flexes its iron muscle, and when the temple curtain is violently torn down the middle, The route to the creator of the universe will no longer be an address in Jerusalem. This text is not offering a map to a location. It is offering a person as the infrastructure of reality. Jesus is not laying down an arbitrary entry requirement to keep people out. He is declaring himself the escape hatch for people trapped in a world governed by death. But to grasp how revolutionary this claim actually is, we have to dismantle the English translation we have grown so comfortable with. The 12 who remain are gripped by a quiet, escalating panic. Their rabbi has just taken a rough towel and a basin of tepid water. We have to look at the first of the 3 words Jesus uses to reconstruct their universe. And it begins with a word that meant something profoundly physical to men who spent their lives walking the dirt roads of the Galilee. They are Galileans. They are men of the dirt. For 3 years, their entire existence has been relentless motion. They walk through the suffocating heat of the Judean desert. They sweat under the midday sun. They feel the sharp, jagged stones of the Jericho road digging through the thin leather of their sandals. They pull thorns from their ankles. They sleep on the hard earth, breathing in the heavy scent of sea salt and dried olive wood. They know what a path is. They know the physical toll of a journey. So when Jesus looks at Thomas in John 14-6, he reaches for a word that lives in their blistered feet. I am the way. The word the English text translates here is the Greek noun Hodos. It appears over 100 times in the New Testament. It means a highway, a traveled route, a physical road cut through the wilderness. Decades later, before they are ever called Christians, the early followers of Jesus will be known exclusively by this word. In Acts chapter 9, Saul goes to Damascus to hunt down men and women, to wash the dust off their calloused feet. He has just told them that his blood is about to be poured out, who belong to the way tes Hodu. It was a physical reality before it was ever a theological category. But in this candlelit room, Jesus does something completely radical with the grammar. He does not say he shows the Hodos. He does not say he teaches the Hodos. He does not say he holds a map to the Hodos. He says he is the Hodos. Think about the sheer weight of that difference. A map is a piece of parchment you hold in your hands. A map gives you directions, but it leaves you entirely alone. If you break your leg on the journey, the map cannot carry you. If bandits block the pass, the map cannot fight for you. If Thomas is simply handed a set of moral instructions to reach God, Thomas is still isolated. He still has to survive the betrayal, the arrests, the suffocating terror of the weekend that is about to tear his mind apart. But Jesus collapses the distance between the guide and the ground. He becomes the pavement. He becomes the very infrastructure of the journey. The Hodos is not a set of directions you follow. It is a presence you step into. Jesus is telling these terrified men that the route to the Creator is not achieved by humans striving across a vast moral distance. He has just told them he is leaving. And he has just told them that where he is going, they cannot follow. It is achieved by standing exactly where they are, remaining connected to him. He is the road. But a road is completely useless if you cannot see it. A path means nothing in pitch darkness. You cannot walk an ancient, cliffside highway without a lamp. Or you will step into the abyss. And so Jesus immediately hands them a second word. A word that was about to shatter how the entire Greco-Roman world understood the fabric of reality. We live in an era that treats truth like a buffet. We speak of my truth and your truth, reducing the concept to personal preference, a curated collection of facts and feelings we assemble to make sense of the world. In the ancient Greek mind, truth was an abstraction, a philosophical ideal, debated by bearded scholars in marble amphitheaters. But Jesus is not standing in an amphitheater. He is standing in the suffocating shadows of a rented room, hours away from a brutal execution. And he hands Thomas the second piece of the survival equation. I am the truth. The word our English Bibles translate here is the Greek aletheia. It appears 109 times in the New Testament, but its etymology reveals something far heavier than just factual accuracy. Aletheia is a compound word. It is built from the negative prefix a, meaning not, and the root lanthano, meaning to hide or to be concealed. Literally translated, aletheia means unhiddenness, It is the state of reality laid completely bare. Thomas, practical, literal, and terrified, finally breaks the suffocating silence. You can almost hear the tremor in his throat, the removal of every veil, the exposure of what is ultimately real when all the illusions of the world are stripped away. If hearing the ancient Greek strip the familiarity off these verses is stirring something inside you, you are exactly who this channel is for. Drop a thought in the comments and hit subscribe, because every week we dig past the English translation to find the bedrock underneath. So consider what happens when Jesus claims to be this unhidden reality. He is not claiming to possess a list of correct theological propositions. He is not saying he has the right answers to a religious test. He is claiming that he, in his physical body, is the ultimate reality of the universe exposed to human eyes. You see the profound collision of this a few chapters later. In John 18, Jesus stands bound, bruised, and bleeding on the cold stone floor of the Roman Praetorium, smelling of sweat and impending death. Governor Pontius Pilate paces in front of him, cynical and exhausted by the political theater, and asks the famous question, "What is truth?" Pilate asks the question while staring directly into the bleeding face of Aletheia itself. Pilate thinks truth is a concept to be debated, so he completely misses the reality, bleeding on his floor. Jesus is telling Thomas that the systems of the world, "Lord, we do not know where you are going. How can we know the way?" And Jesus responds with a sentence that has become the iron power of Rome, the corruption of the temple guard. The terrifying finality of the grave are ultimately illusions. They are the things that are hidden, temporary, and fading. Truth is not a set of propositions you agree with. It is a person you collide with. He is the physical road, and he is the unhidden reality illuminating that road. But a road and a light are entirely useless if the traveler is already dead. Which brings us to the third word, the final piece of the sequence. And this is the word that changes the stakes of the entire universe. The olive oil lamps in the upper room are burning low, casting long, trembling shadows against the plastered walls. Jesus raises his hand to gesture in the dim light. You can see the pulse beating under the skin of his wrist. You can watch his chest rise and fall as he pulls the thick, stagnant air of the room into his lungs. That heartbeat, that breath, that fragile rhythm of blood and oxygen, the ancient Greeks called it bios. It is the word from which we get biology. It is existence measured in heartbeats and breath counts. And bios is terrifyingly fragile. One of the most famous and most weaponized statements in human history. It is a sentence printed on millions of bumper stickers. Bios can be suffocated by the weight of a wooden beam. Bios can be drained by the sharp, cold edge of a Roman spear in a matter of hours. The bios of the man speaking these words will be violently extinguished on a hill outside the city walls. But when Jesus looks at Thomas and says, "I am the life," he does not use the word bios. He uses the Greek word zoe. Zoe is not biological survival. Zoe is the uncreated, indestructible, overflowing vitality of the divine. It is the absolute fullness of life that existed before the first star ignited, and the life that will remain after the final ocean dries to dust. Bios breathes air, but Zoe breathes the spirit. Bios requires food, but Zoe is sustained by the word. Bios ends in a sealed tomb, but Zoe shatters the stone from the inside out. Jesus is standing in the shadow of his own execution, telling his followers that they are about to watch his physical body die, but that the life he possesses cannot be killed. This life is not a prolonged biological existence. It is the indestructible energy of God himself. He is looking at men whose own bios is about to be threatened. Men who will soon be hunted, beaten, and broken by the religious and political machines of their day.